How are we doing, everybody? I am Jeff Hoke, and this is episode 15 of Shorthanded Takes, a Boston Bruins podcast. The whole crew is back. Chris Henrique is back from his COVID stint. I'm back from my COVID stint. The only one in this group that hasn't had a COVID stint yet is Kevin Perdios, and we do not wish that on him
Don't
one
jinx me.
bit. We do not. Chris down there just nodding his head. No, we don't wish that on him. We do not. But we are brought to you by Couch Guy Sports, of course, and also sponsored by Shocked Energy. Ever feel unable to focus, tired, and low on energy? We understand that feeling. We understand it so well that Shorthanded Takes, a Boston Bruins podcast, is brought to you by Couch Guy Sports Network and sponsored by our friends at Shocked Energy. Head over to shockedenergy.com and use the promo code CGSN today for 10% off your order. That's CGSN today for 10% off your order at shockedenergy.com. Also brought to you by Exogun Massage Guns. Guys, welcome back. Took a week off, obviously, because I had COVID last week. Week before that, it was just Kevin and I. Chris had COVID that week. Chris has lasted a little longer than I did, but we won't get into that because this is not a medical podcast. So we'll dive right into things. We watched the game yesterday. As this is Tuesday, obviously this will be released on Wednesday. So we watched the game on Monday. The Bruins lost 5-3. We will dive into the goalie situation here in a little while, but I want to focus mainly on the play of the Bruins Monday and just over this last stretch of games. And I'm going to toss it to Chris first and get his idea of what we saw on Monday with the struggle of the offense a little bit, but it's been a stretch where it's been up and down.
I think goaltending was rough. Obviously we'll chat about that, but I feel like they've been playing so hot in the month of January. At some point you're going to get one of those downer games, and I feel like that's what that game was on Monday night. I think the biggest piece right here is that the offense is giving us some track record for this month, that there's going to be some consistency there because they are getting contributions from everywhere at this point. Is that like back-to-back games now that we've seen, a goaltender that struggled since returning? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm going to kind of just take that game with a grain of salt. Let's see how the next couple go. But if we still see those same struggles, we may put some truth to the chants that were going around the Garden the other night.
So Kevin, I'll toss it to you. Obviously, Chris can take that game with a grain of salt. We go back the last couple of games. The Bruins won 4-3 over the Capitals in a thrilling game on Thursday, and then 3-2 against the Jets on that Saturday. So they were on a modest 2-game win streak. And obviously in between there, you had that loss on Monday and then that loss on Tuesday, 7-1 to the Hurricanes, which was kind of an anomaly. But what would you, this last stretch of 3 or 4 games, what would you rate this Bruins team at? Is it a grain of salt like Chris?
Grain of salt's tough, in like we'll talk about earlier, those 2 games, including last night, come down to goaltending. Bottom line, the Hurricanes game, you can't allow 7 goals. I think Nick Foligno got on 98.5 and kind of was like, yeah, once you get down 3, 4, 5, you kind of say, all right, this isn't our night. And that's 100% true. And not to say, there's no fight in this team or anything, but it is. When you were scoring, right? When they answered almost right away in the Hurricanes game, and then it was before they could even announce the goal, Carolina scored again. It's like, what the fuck, guys? Like it's demoralizing, as a player. All right, we answered. Let's go. Shit, they just scored again. Like, here we go. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of, but I don't want to say it's a grain of salt because it's almost, I kind of see like this pattern might almost be repeating. And I know we'll get into it later on again, so I'm not going to go full into depth on it, but something's got to be made. A change has to be made. When these games are kind of getting away from you or slipping away, whatever you want to call it, something has to be done. Someone's got to be there to kind of pick the energy back up. Not to bash Bergeron or Marchand or any of those veteran leaders in there, but something's got to change. There's got to be something that kind of revolts that that line or that team when shit's hitting the fan, or kind of hold everything together. And you would rely on the goaltending, but that's conversation for 20 minutes from now.
Well, no, let's dive into that right now, because we covered everything in that stretch, and it's not nothing to really gawk over. I mean, like I said, 7-1 against the Hurricanes, you lost. You did beat the Predators in overtime the game before that. You beat the Capitals. That's a good win. You beat the Jets, barely beat the Jets. They're not even that good of a team. And then you lost to the Ducks that are still trying to find their footing after a fantastic start. Now you got the Avalanche tomorrow in Colorado, and that's no that's no cakewalk on that end of things either. And so let's look at it really quick. Goaltending wise, I believe right now the Linus Ullmark will be going tomorrow, if I remember correctly. But let's go to the elephant in the room, Tuukka Rask. Now, obviously, it is still early on. He probably should have had some starts in Providence, but obviously he did not. Bruce Cassidy said he needs at least 8 games to get ready. That's a story we could talk about in a few minutes. 12 goals, though, in his last 3 games. He gave up 5 against the Hurricanes before being pulled. He gave up 2 against the Jets, and then he gave up 5 against the Ducks yesterday. Kevin, I will toss it to you. He's rusty. We obviously thought he'd be rusty coming out the gates, obviously. Hip injury. And we always talk about the hip. Hips don't lie. What is your take? Are you worried yet? The Swayman chant started yesterday at the TD Garden, obviously, as Chris mentioned and posted on Twitter with the nice wrestling meme he put on. That's a very fantastic meme, by the way. But are you worried yet? Are you at a threat level yet?
I'm not necessarily worried. Like, I don't think I'll go worried. I almost put it more as, this is more reassuring that there's no way in hell you can trade Swayman. No shot. Like, this just kind of puts that even more, even if that conversation was being had in management, can't happen. Can't do it. Because at the end of the day, you're getting average goaltending no matter which of these 3 guys is in the net so far this year. So no, I'm not worried, but I think 8 games, he needs 8 games to shake the rust. Well, we don't have 8 games. Like, we can't afford to just be blown out 8 of his starts. He needs to figure it out and figure it out now. And to the point, if this happens again, his next start, I think if everything goes right, I think his next start's against the Coyotes. So if you want to talk about kind of a gimme game, a shake of the rust off type of game, Coyotes is a pretty good team to have it against. So if he goes out and lays an egg again against the Coyotes, then I'll be worried. And then I'll 100% be like, Tukes, time to retire, bud, because you suck, and hang it up. So, because you're not helping this team, you're hurting it. It's time to get the kid back up here and let him develop and roll the dice.
So I will go to Chris on this one. And I said 12 goals in the last 2 or 3 games for Tuukka Rask, 6 goals in the last 2 games for Linus Ullmark, expected to go tomorrow against the Avalanche, who's a tough team. We'll see how he does against them. And then obviously the Coyotes on Friday, which will be Tuukka Rask. Let's put it into perspective, Chris, here with the whole Tuukka Rask situation. I was a firm believer coming in that I was in Tuesday was my first day of quarantine, and I had got to watch that Carolina game. Obviously, I turned it off after it was like 4-1, 5-1. Point being, I don't believe they should have put Tuukka Rask in that game at that point. I understand you want to get him game time, and like Bruce Cassidy said, 8 games. But you're going up against a lethal Carolina Hurricanes team with like your second or third start in. and obviously you allowed 5 goals. What's your should they have put him in that Carolina game? And what's your take on this whole Tuukka Rask thing? Are you pushing the panic button yet?
So here's my question. Then I'm going to flip back
Okay.
to answer a question with a question, right?
Yeah.
If the dude needed 8 games, then why did he not spend more time in Providence?
Well, he didn't spend any time. That's the thing.
That's what I mean. So if he needs 8 games, why did he not get those 8 games down against? I know it's AHL competition, but still, get the 8 games down there. Get your feet, underneath your legs a little bit.
Yeah.
Get back between the pipes. To be honest with you, in games that really don't mean anything. The AHL games, like no one cares whether the P Bruins win or lose. You know what I mean? Like if you're there at the game and you have kids or whatever, yeah, you want to see the P Bruins win. But in the grand scheme of things, we're not counting, the wins and losses for the Providence Bruins. So Tuukka should have been down there. Now, I don't really know the complexity of those contracts and some of these NHL players that they can sign, but you're going to tell me that Tuukka couldn't have signed a 2-way deal for that $1 million?
Yeah.
So that way he can go up and down, and then you could still have Sway and Omar kind of go through the stretch they've gone through. Tuukka Rask, you know what I mean? It's not like we needed to get Tuukka Rask. We got to get him back, You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that they rushed Tuukka Rask either, but if we're saying the guy needs 8 games, then why didn't he get 8 games down in Providence? And maybe that was answered somewhere else and we missed that. I'm not sure, but I haven't heard that. But, I don't want to see him go through these struggles, because right now this team has played relatively good hockey over the course of the month of January with that Carolina game, which was a black eye. And then on Monday night, against the Ducks. The rest of you take out of that, you know what I mean? Like they had some pretty solid games. You had the Marchand game where you got the hat trick. Yep. You had the Pasta game. I mean, it just seemed like it was a different, person every single game. If we see Tuukka go out and he lays an egg against the Coyotes, we need to now ask the question: Is he ready to be back to face NHL competition? I think he's healthy. I don't think the Bruins would have someone who's not healthy playing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But we need to look at, is Tuukka Rask ready to play against NHL competition? And then to Kevin's point, if he's not, it might be time to maybe make that difficult decision. This dude's talking about window closing, 1, 2, 3 years. Window might fucking close in 6 games because he can't stop the puck. Now, I'm not going to put it all on Tuukka either.
Oh, no. No.
Defense, that's the thing that this team needs to improve. They got to get another defenseman, maybe even 2 defensemen.
Yep.
Derek Forbort is a dime a dozen. Matt Grzelcyk can't friggin' stay healthy. You know what I mean? Like, overpaid the guy to have him here too. In the words of Felga, love you, mean it, but like, get someone else in here. Like, I want to see them improve the defense. And goaltending, and if this goaltending thing doesn't work out, now you got to bring Sway back up and kind of go from there. So it's been a few weeks since I've recorded, so I kind of went on a little tangent right there.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You actually let it in perfectly, because our next topic is the trade deadline.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yep. Sorry, I got lost in my Swayman chants begin at the Garden. We already talked about that. So I did a story the other day, and you guys can check it out on couchguysports.com. Trade outlook, the 3 players that the Bruins should pursue. I know Chris and Kevin both read it. I know Kevin has his own article coming out here in the next day or so, and I'll let him talk about that. And it kind of ties in with what I'm about to say. I will just say that, yes, Chris, I 100% agree. They need defensemen. That's the biggest issue on that team right now. The lines seem to be clicking so far, the switching of the lines for 1 and 2. But I'll just go down through the three different trade targets, and then I'll get your guys' opinion on it. Funny enough, 2 of them are from the Arizona Coyotes, so you're going to see them on Friday and see what they look like. But the first one's going to be off of the Dallas Stars, and that's Jonathan Klingberg. He's their top defenseman right now. One of my personal favorites. Plays the second pairing of the Stars. It plays on that first power play unit. He was a scratch today again in their game against the Devils. That window, he can fit right in, pairing it with Mike Riley. You can give McAvoy some time off on that first power play unit because you're giving him a lot of work right now, and he could use a little bit of time off here and there on that power play unit. Probably the most expensive one out of the three is Jacob Chikron. Did I pronounce that right? Chikron? Yeah. Anyone?
I think so. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I think
Okay.
so. That would be how I.
Okay, we're gonna go with that. From the Arizona Coyotes, he is surprisingly only 23 years old. But he would also fit that second defensive pairing perfectly with Riley, and I think that's the biggest hole right now on that team is that second defensive pairing. You got Carlo and Riley. It's not really the best 1-2 tandem. I love Carlo to death. Don't get me wrong, but it's just not that good of a pairing, and it would take a lot probably to pry him out. But they are part of that sweepstakes, and obviously Lawson Krause from the Arizona Coyotes as well. He would be a guy that you put on the first or second line, but that's a different story for a different day. So, Chris, you're the one that brought it up. Defense, those two names, do they really? Obviously, you've heard Chikron part of a whole bunch of different teams right now because Arizona's trying to get like the perfect trade for him. But Klingberg, I thought, was a very interesting trade target that I heard the other day on the Bruins wanting him, and he's at a age, he's got 1 or 2 years left on his contract, so I think he could be a good fit. What say you?
Yeah, I agree. I think having someone that you can slot on the side, like you mentioned with Mike Riley, that from a talent perspective, I think needs to be better than Mike Riley. I don't want them to bring in another Mike Riley. I don't want them to bring in another Derek Fulvort. I want them to bring in, to me, if I'm building a roster, and this is me, strictly me, you have McAvoy. He is your cornerstone. He is your franchise player. He's your number one defenseman. Now, if I can find another McAvoy in the draft, I want to do that. Obviously, everybody would, right? But I want to get the next level down from McAvoy and put that dude on the second line and anchor that down and really solidify those two pieces. I'm a firm believer that in football, defense, you win in the trenches, defense wins championships. I'm a firm believer that in the postseason in baseball, pitching wins championships. I equate pitching as more like in that defensive side. And in hockey, I feel that if you have a solid defensive core and a really good goaltender, you're going to go places. And I think the Bruins need to really address that. Don Sweeney builds a defensive unit like Dave Dombrowski builds a bullpen. Neither one of them can do it. So I want to see the Red Sox. Wow. I want to see the Bruins go and address that piece. I think I think Klingberg is someone that could fit really nicely on that second pairing. The question is going to be is what's the cost? Now, to be honest with you, the way that they've drafted the last couple of years, I don't really care what you give up for the picks at this point because the way you drafted has been complete dog shit. So go ahead and trade those picks. Now, I don't know if I want to go and give a 1-up to get this guy because if I'm going to give a 1, I want to see maybe you can get the dude that we can't pronounce the name.
Chikron, yeah. It's Chikron. Yeah, I looked it up.
But with that being said, there's going to be a lot of competition for a 23-year-old young defenseman, especially with a team with the Coyotes who have no idea where they're even going to probably play in the future. So I don't mind Klingberg. I really don't. I think it'd be a good fit. The question is does Don Sweeney do that, or does Don Sweeney go get a lesser defenseman like he's done in the past and try to go ahead and address and maybe get more offense?
What say you, Kevin, on that part? You obviously have an article coming down, and I'll let you talk about that too when this part and it ties together with this. I obviously Chris said he would rather have, a younger guy on that second defensive pairing that maybe might be the next step down from Charlie McAvoy, not Charlie McAvoy, obviously, but and if you're going that route, you want that Jacob Chikron kind of guy, 23-year-old, coming off an injury, but when he is a good player when he's healthy, and like I said in my article, he's probably going to cost you a first rounder. I believe they want at least one first rounder and a couple of prospects. But what say you on the end of defense for the trade deadline? And go ahead and talk about what your upcoming article is and how it ties in with this whole trade deadline thing.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot. Obviously you want the young defenseman because fast forward a year from now, you're going to have a young goaltender. Swayman's going to be going to be your number one goalie. And so if you have bring in another young, talented defenseman that may, like we said, maybe is a half step below the McAvoys, that's a solid. Now you have a solid 2D pairing. You know, McAvoy is up on one. And then you have it bringing a defenseman that can fit in nicely alongside someone else on the second D pair. That's a very good start to fix a huge issue. It's just the price. What are we gonna pay? I'm fine, like Chris said, paying whatever the draft picks are, because I have zero faith in the ownership drafting. Like, I got nothing. I would almost throw every single draft pick out the window and just be like, screw it. We're trading our entire draft picks to get talent that we know is talent in here, because I don't trust them in the draft, and a headless monkey could friggin' draft Charlie McAvoy. Like, we know Charlie McAvoy was going to be good. Like, that was a given. Watch the guy play, so when you miss on 3 picks in a row, I'm sorry, like, on the spot, you show them, like, all right, I think your career's done in Boston. We'll find you somewhere else to go. But yeah, I think the young guy, you want young defensemen or young players, period, especially if we're possibly heading towards a rebuild or a window closing esque. You want to bring in that next wave, since we didn't through the draft.
Yeah.
You want to get as many young guys in here as you can, and hopefully a few of them stick. But RD's shallow. That's the issue. And my main trade pickups or I shouldn't say main, what I want to try to get is bring back some old familiar faces. And I hate to be that guy, like, oh, let's bring back all the fan favorites, but there's a reason that I want to do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
So Milan Lucic, right?
Yep.
What's that guy going to cost you?
Probably nothing.
Nothing. He's barely playing in Calgary, right? Or he's got some points up there. I think he's got like 5 or 6 this year. Well, when he first came into the league, all he did was fight. His first year or two, he had like a dozen fights each year. All right. Now after year 3, he transitions into a little bit more of that goal scorer. He's finding the back of the net. So the fight in majors go way down. Fine, so be it. But now he's entering the back end of his career. I'm not saying, bring this guy in and have him be the, Doug Glatt or whatever from the movie Goon, where you're only going on the ice to beat someone's face in. No. But you're going on the ice when someone decides it's okay to cheap shot Marchand into the back of the board, like into the boards from behind.
Yep.
And you don't answer. What the fuck are we doing, boys? What are we doing? Like, that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay.
All right, fine. You go down. You want to just say, fine, Lucic, I don't know, he's 33, 34. He's getting up there in age. Well, if you put him on this team right now, he has the same amount of fighting majors as anyone else on the team. All right. The other guy that leads it is Trent Frederick. They're both 6'3". They're both 6'3", right?
Yep.
Trent Frederick's 210. Milan Lucic 231.
Whew.
20 pounds heavier. Like that's something to think about. All right. Next guy. Bring back Big Z.
I knew
Get
this
Chara
was
back
right.
here. And
funny enough.
But hold on.
No, go ahead.
This is everyone's like, oh my God, like, you're just whatever. But I'm not saying he's a top pair with McAvoy. Put him in the 2-3. Limited his ice time. He's already limited in the Islanders.
Yep.
Give the Islanders a draft pick because they suck this year too. Give them whatever they want because the trade value isn't going to be high. But the same thing, you put Chara on the ice. He leads the team in fights. He would lead the Bruins in fights. He has more fights than any single guy on the team.
And I'm not disparaging it. I'm just saying that today he does have that occasional assist too when he's on the ice. He had an assist today to tie it up. Just saying. Not saying he's a true goal scorer, but He's pretty goddamn good.
I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, well, we have to bring back guys that are going to beat people's faces in, but you got to bring it back guys that are going to make other teams question, hey, should I hit Marchand right now? Should I hit Bergeron? Should I hit Pasternak? Because I really don't want to have to answer to Zdeno Chara. I really don't want to have to answer to Milan Lucic. Yeah, okay, I'll deal with Frederick. But that thought of I might have to answer to these guys and their price being low, you can't ask for much to get those guys back here. Like the mid to late round draft picks. I don't know, maybe a guy down in Providence. Who knows? Whatever you want to do, but we got to get tougher. We can't allow teams to just take runs at our best players, and everyone's gonna say this isn't the way the game's going. You're right. But Tom Wilson's still in the NHL for a reason, right? Tom Wilson, no one on the Bruins is going to fight Tom Wilson. All right. So there's for the Capitals. Go down the list of Pat Maroon for the Lightning. Like there's guys around the league that are we don't want to say enforcers, but when someone takes a run at the Ovechkins, the TJ Oshie's, the Austin Matthews, you have to answer to those guys, and that's why you see no one doing it. Not to say Ovechkin can't handle his own, because that dude's a different breed, but I think that's an avenue we have to explore, where we really need all the players we can get and all the draft picks we can get, and we don't have much value, period. So look for something cheap, bring back some old familiar faces that understand how we operate, and who says you still can't go out and make those other moves? Bring in the other guys, because you're not giving up any capital, really. I don't know. That's just what I think.
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, my only I guess rebuttal to that would be is Lucic, while the cost to get him would probably be cheap, contractually he's not cheap. This is a player that is $5.5 million. He's still got a couple of years left in his deal.
Is he really?
Yeah. So look, if the Bees made the trade for him right now, I just went to Cap Friendly. I think it's $2.54 million to be on the hook for the rest of this year. Great. That's not bad. But then it's 5.75, I think it said, or 5.5 or something along those lines for the next 2 years. And I don't think I mean, we did that with David Backes. You know what I mean? If it was a smaller cap hit, I'm all for it, because I do think Lucic would inject some life and some toughness that I think that the Bruins team kind of needs. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you have a Lucic on your team, and that dude who took the cheap shot against Marchand the other night for the
Hathaway, yeah.
You know what I mean? I have a feeling that we would have saw more fights. We would have seen a little more fire and energy out of that piece. So again, probably not the way that the game's going or whatever that nonsense is, but the Bruins have always been known as the big bad Bruins. We got away from that. If the Bruins are going to look to get a defenseman, I actually don't mind the idea of bringing a Chara back to this team. And I mean that in the respect of, again, not going to cost you a lot. But it's also going to be contingent on what you basically missed from a trade standpoint, because the dude from the Stars, he's going to just be a rental. He's going to be for the rest of this year. Looking that up, he's in the final year of his deal. I'm not sure if I want to give a first round pickup, going back and looking at that now, for a guy that's only going to be here for the next couple of months. Because I don't think that this team currently as built is worth giving up a first because I don't think they're close to winning a cup. I also still do believe with what I said a couple of minutes ago, that Don Sweeney's been struggling with the draft perspective, and I just don't have the confidence that he's going to use that first round pick correctly. So if you're going to use the one, package that up and get a young defenseman that you can put with the second pairing that can be part of that future long term. If you can't find that, then bring in Chara, and again, limit the minutes down. We don't need him to be Chara that's from 10 years ago. We need him to be just someone that can eat some minutes, that can be healthy, and see where that piece goes. So I think next couple of weeks, this is a really big period for Don Sweeney, because I know a lot of the people who cover the Bruins and stuff like that, they really kind of played off a specific way about like the way this team is perceived and how this front office is looked at. I can't imagine that the Jacobs are going to be okay with complacency. And if this team doesn't make a move to get better and have a deep run, we need to put everything on the table. Coach, general manager, president, roster. Not saying you got to rip it up and start from scratch, but I don't think it is out of the realm to look at how can we make the Bruins better, take the Heimblum approach for sustainability for many years to come. So it's my 2 cents.
Yeah, did this, not to continue down this path, it's obviously a good conversation, but I think with the contracts and all that, kind of what Chris was saying, if we really suck this year, right? Like if we continue down this path where we're just mediocre, we may sneak into the playoffs. How do you, if you're the Jacobs, look at this and be like, all right, we're going to keep Sweeney. We're going to keep the coach. We're going to keep the roster completely as is. How do you do that? So Sweeney has to feel that pressure. That's why I'm kind of like, I think he may be like, fuck it. I have to build something or show that I'm trying to do something for this year. And then next year, we'll figure it out. We'll cap wise, roster wise, whatever it may be. We'll spend the entire offseason trying to figure out what to do here, who to move, who to cut, whatever you want to do. I think he is so against the wall right now that he almost needs to turn a blind eye to this guy's here for 2 more years after this. You got to kind of ignore that because you backed yourself into this corner. So pick your poison. Do you want your job? Like, do you want to be able to make the decisions come the off season? Or do you want to just say, well, I don't want to have to make a decision 2 years from now, so I'm going to stay pat, and then you're possibly out of a job. So it's kind of they're in a shitty situation, bottom line. Any way you look at it, it's a tough situation. So I think if you're Sweeney, he just says, fuck it. I got to unload here. Here we go. Let's see what I can do, because I got to get these guys on a winning path, and I got to do whatever I can to maximize this window that may still be cracked open, but it's closing.
It's chilly too, just saying. It is winter and it is chilly in here. And let's go ahead and look ahead before we give our hot takes. And by the way, March 21st is the trade deadline for the NHL this year. So it's coming up fast. A little over a month and a half away. About 2 months probably. But let's look ahead here. So they have the Avalanche tomorrow. They're at Colorado. That's going to be a tough game. Avalanche obviously have probably one of these the best, if not the best, next to McDavid and Draisaitl, with Landeskog, Rantanen, and McKinnon for that line, and they have Nazem Kadri, who's good on that second line. They're just so deep. It's ridiculous. They do have a goaltending problem, but that's they keep scoring, so that's nothing to worry about there. Then, like we said on Friday, Arizona, they got a little West Coast trip at Arizona on Friday. Arizona currently winning against Pittsburgh right now 2-1. That's going to the second intermission, I think. I'm not saying that it's a cakewalk, but that's 2-2 now. I'm not saying it's gonna be a cakewalk, but I mean it's Arizona. It's Arizona is statistically, I believe, the worst team in the league right now, if I remember correctly. Let's see. 13. Yes, they are 10-26 right now. Second worst. Canadians are 8-26. Canadians have only won 8 games this year, guys. Just saying. We bring this up every week because I like to bring up the standings. 8-26 a year out from being in the Stanley Cup. I can't. I posted this the other day. I can't imagine at what point you imagine your team going from a Stanley Cup contender, and I know it was the COVID times, and it still is the COVID times, but from going there to 8-26, good God, I can't even imagine what that's like. But anyway, so the second worst team is the Arizona Coyotes, who will probably be selling here soon. And then Sunday, you're at Dallas, so you'll be able to see John Klingberg on that trip as well, with Chai Krun and Kraus on Friday. So I don't know about you guys, but there is apparently a big snowstorm coming this weekend. So if you guys want to catch up on your Bruins, best time to do it. Apparently up here in Maine, we're going to get about over a foot of snow. Well, we'll
God
see.
bless you.
Yeah. Jesus, man.
Take all of it.
Apparently, if it hits right, 18 to 20 inches is what I'm told. So we'll see if I survive to next Tuesday. I don't know. I might have to ration out my food at that point. And then on Tuesday, when we come back for our 16th episode, we got Seattle at home. Seattle, the third worst team in the league. So you got a pretty favorable schedule coming up here outside of the Avalanche and the Dallas Stars. Dallas Stars has a very underrated first line, Chris. I don't know if you've seen this, but they have Rupe Hintz, Jason Robertson, and Joe Pavelski. Probably a very underrated line. Looking at the schedule ahead, though, Chris, give me your thoughts. It seems like a pretty favorable schedule, like I said, outside the Avs of Dallas. But what's your thoughts? And who do you think will be goalie for most of these 4 games?
Well, I want to see Allmark go between the pipes against the Stars, and then, like we talked a little bit earlier, let Rask go against the lesser team, whether that's a confidence builder or whatever it might be. Because if Rask goes and shits the bed against the Coyotes, then I think there's reason to be a little concerned. I'm not going to take the safe route, or because like sometimes I'll do some of these picks. I'll take the safe route and be because I think with the last one, Kevin kind of hit it right off the top of the head, and he wasn't afraid to just say it as it is. I think the Bruins need to these next 2 games. Bruins need to sweep, get the 4 points that you're going to need, but they're going to need to get the goaltending. The goaltending is going to need to be dialed in. They're going to need to have that in place. Foligno is going to, I would probably say, be out since his face got messed up. So
By John Gibson.
Did you watch that live?
Apparently they have a beef together because back when he was out west, played out west, they fought before too. When he was on Columbus, he fought.
He went out. He had to have went out, got back up, and just kept hitting. I'm like, oh, dude, like, if I'm on the other end of that and I know I just knocked you out and then you're still throwing punches at me, I'm like, okay, you win, dude. Like,
man, that's why they brought him in. I mean, I didn't think we brought him in to fight the goalie, but I mean,
what
was that?
Take no prisoners.
I wish it was just Jordan Binnington, but I mean, that's a different story for a different day. But he gives up 7 goals a game anyway, so I'm fine with that. So,
but I'm just curious if he's going to miss any time, because I mean, didn't he miss some time too at the beginning of the season?
Yes,
as well.
Yeah,
so
I think he's out. I think he's out tomorrow. I think they said at least tomorrow he'll be out.
I have to. I wanted to see them. They got to collect these 4 points, continue to gain that momentum, continue to close the gap on some of these teams that you've been catching in the standings. And really just kind of go from there. I think that the Bruins have played well enough in the month of January to really close this month out strong. You go and drop these games against the Stars and the Coyotes, and then coming off that last game, I think it really puts a little bit of a black eye in what this team has done in the month of January, because they've been pretty hot this month. So
yeah,
I think that's what they need to do there. I need to see the goaltending be there. And if Allmark continues to struggle too, then shit, we're gonna having 3 starters to 1 in the minors, and 2 it's gonna be like a coin flip. Like,
and 1's worth $20 million.
It's like watching Matt Barnes pitch nonstop.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Which is very fitting to talk about Red Sox, given the news today of David Ortiz. But Kevin, what's before we turn it over to hot takes and really dive into things, what is your prediction for these next 4 games?
Yeah, next 4 games. I'm going to take it kind of a little bit further than Chris. You know, Chris says you gotta sweep these next two.
I just want to go the next two. I want to get these 4 points against these two teams to start with, just to really kind of close this month out strong, and just really kind of go from there after that.
Yeah, still looking ahead, I'm going to go one more game further. The next 5 games, I think you need to go 5-0 here. You need to get 10 points right now. Get yourself back in, because in not saying of like it's life or death, right? Like, not saying your season's on the line, but your next 5 games, you have to separate yourself from the rest of the pack. Like, you have to solidify it. We're not this middle of the road team. We're going to be a top team. We're going to be in that upper, hey, these are the first group of contenders. These are like contenders 2.0, whatever you want to call it. The A and B group. And you got the Avalanche, tough matchup, 100% tough matchup. But, when we're squaring off against good teams like the Capitals, we took care of business and we showed that we can do it. We'll do it again. Show it. Continue to show that you can beat these very good teams. Like, the Avalanche are good teams. And then you roll in, you got the Coyotes, Stars, and then the Penguins. Those should be four gimmies, right? Those really should be a given 8 points. The Avalanche are okay, we'll see what, could go either way. If Allmark decides that, he doesn't like playing hockey, then we could be in for a tough game. But I think you need to sweep the next 5 games minimum. So I'll go that route of any loss in these next 5 games, we're in a tough spot.
So let's dive into that for a hot second. Hold on, let me bring this up on my iPad. So let's just say right now, you're looking at before we go to hot takes, I just want to bring this up really quick. You're looking at the Boston Bruins right now. You said the next 5 games they need to win, or they should win, for that matter. The Boston Bruins are currently sitting in 4th in the Atlantic Division. They are 12. No, not 12. They are 8 points ahead of the Red Wings, with 53 points behind the Maple Leafs, with who have 53 currently. And then you have the Panthers and the Lightning both sitting at the top of the Atlantic Division at 61 points. To put that into perspective, you are sitting currently 5 points behind the Capitals, 6 points behind the Hurricanes, and 7 points behind the Penguins. If you're looking at a full conference look between the two. So yeah, I mean, the Maple Leafs have been struggling lately, and that's a good thing, because we talked about how they need to gain ground on them, and they gained ground. They added 5 or 6 points, and they're now 3 points behind the Maple Leafs. So now you got to make that another push and try to get ahead of the Maple Leafs now. Not saying it is a necessity, but like Kevin said, if you want to be not known as the mediocre team, the team that, is middle of the pack, then you want to, make that move. And you don't want Detroit catching up with you again either, because that's a horrible look if Detroit catches up with you. And, the next closest team to Detroit, for Christ's sakes, is the Blue Jackets. They have 37 points. So, I mean, it goes down and down and down as you go on. And obviously, probably not going to catch up with the Panthers, Lightning, and or New York Rangers, but it's totally possible. Long season ahead. Looking at the playoff matchup right now, though, you're looking at a matchup in the Eastern Conference with the Florida Panthers right now, if the season ended today.
No.
I can't even believe I'm saying that.
What?
Can't believe I'm saying that. Woof, the Panthers.
Dude, the Florida Panthers are red hot right now. Let's put it like that. Currently tied at the top, like I said, and then you'd have Tampa Bay, Toronto, New York Rangers, and Washington, so on and so forth. But yeah, no, focusing, you want to stay away from that 1-4 matchup, in all honesty, or that 1-7 matchup, whatever it is, because you don't want to go into Florida. You know how Florida plays, and it's not the same way you play. and they put up, I think, 18 goals within 2 games. One last week, I think they put up 9 back-to-back on back-to-back days. So that being said, it will be an interesting 5-game stretch coming up here for sure. Like Kevin said, I'm not going to say they need to go 5-0, but they need to win at least 4 out of the next 5 games, because it's not do or die, but it is to that point where, you're starting to wonder what you need for trade pieces, what you want to use for trade pieces. Jake DeBrusk is obviously upping his trade value if you decide to trade him or not. That is another story that Kevin has put out back in December, but you can go on and read that, the dilemma with Jake DeBrusk. That being said, though, Chris, let's go to you. Close this show out. Brought to you by Shocked Energy. Go to shockedenergy.com. Use code CGSN today for 10% off your next order. Chris, hot takes as we head into this next 4 to 5 games.
Well, first, let me get the energy drink that I'm drinking and turn the can around so the sponsor doesn't get upset. Let's start with that. Oops. So you want me to give the next 5 games now, or the 2?
Next 4 games. I was on the 5 games. The whole
All right. So
next these upcoming. Yes.
3-1. I know. I think that I think that's fair. I think that they just need to get the consistent goaltending, and just hopefully these guys can get hot. So I want to see them go 3-1. We got to see Marchand with the hat trick. We got to see Pasta with the hat trick. Kind of want to see another hat trick next week. So, I'm going to see who get the hat trick. I'm just going to pull one out there right now. Let's get DeBrusk with a hat trick out there. Keep increasing that trade value, just in case.
Dude, we're almost up to Draisaitl straight up. Honestly, we're almost there.
You might be able to get Draisaitl in a pick. And the way that
dude, he is through the roof right now. Honestly, skyrocket. So, put him on the first line. That kid blazes.
I want to go 3-1, and I want to see Jake DeBrusk in a game with a hat trick. And he's going.
Which game? Let's whittle it down. Which
Coyotes.
Game? I knew you were going to say that.
Coyotes.
I was thinking it was going to be the Coyotes of Seattle. So
you know what's going to be though? It'll probably be against Colorado.
Oh, probably. It's always the best teams they do well against, like Kevin said. Makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, they play to their competition, and it's
they play down.
Terrible trait for any team. Like people think like, they're able to play up with their competition. Nope. Bad teams play to their competition.
I can name another team in Boston that does that too, but we're not going to get into. Well, I can name 2 teams in Boston that are doing that right now, but one of them's not currently playing. So
is one of the Boston Celtics?
By far, by far, who are currently winning, who is currently up 30 right now. But
that's right. They'll find a way to lose that game.
Exactly. Kevin, what is your hot take for the next 4?
Next 4, I gotta stick with what I said earlier. We're gonna go 4-0. Avalanche game's gonna be tough. It's gonna come down to let's see. It's gonna come down to an overtime W, and Chucky's gonna score it to win it. I think Charlie McAvoy is gonna get the overtime goal. And then kind of go one step further. Tuukka Rask is going to get a shutout against the Coyotes because
it's Coyotes.
He's finally feeling the pressure, and he's going to get a shutout against the Coyotes and think all is forgiven. Like the Coyotes are supposed to be an NHL team, but
I mean, if we wanted to go up against an AHL team for at least one game, at least that's the game that we can put them up against. It's basically an AHL team. That in Montreal. I mean.
Yeah,
Montreal is just putrid, as I said. Oh boy.
I mean, if you're Cassidy, you got to be kind of looking at this schedule and be like, all right, I am not letting Rask anywhere near any somewhat above average NHL team at the moment. So I'm gonna give you all the cupcakes you need, man.
No Dallas, no Colorado.
Yeah, you got the other two. You got the Coyotes, you got the Kraken, you got the Senators. We're gonna give you all the we're gonna hold your hand through these 8 warm-up games that you need to shake the rust off, apparently. So, yeah, that should be his approach. And
Yep.
4-0, Charlie McAvoy wins it in overtime against the Avalanche. Tuukka Rask gets a shutout against the Coyotes. And then I'm not going any further than that.
And hopefully no time in the sin bin for old Kevin, because that is a bold one. 4-0. I like it, though. I do very much like it. So that's going to do it for episode 15. We will be back next week, obviously, unless Kevin gets COVID, because,
dude,
knock on wood.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, knock on wood. I've been saying that for 2 years, and I knocked on wood for 2 years, and here I am. Anyway, that's going to do it for episode 15 of Shorthanded Takes, a Boston Bruins podcast. We are brought to you by Couch Guy Sports, as always. Also sponsored by Shocked Energy. Once again, CGSN is the code to use at shockedenergy.com. Also brought to you by Exogun, the massage gun that works perfectly. I still need to try it. I still have not been able to try it. But that being said, I am Jeff Oak. That is Chris Henrique. That is Kevin Perdios. And this has been episode 15. And we will see you next week for episode 16.